Coming to you live from the shadow of the big house, it's IT4U, tips and tricks on ITS tools, products, services, and more with your host, Gene Mackey. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to IT4U. I'm your host, Gene Mackey. I was trying to chat some of you up in the chat pod, but nobody really wanted to talk to me except my friend Jen. But hey, here we are. These are interactive webinars brought to you by Information and Technology Services. These are demos and tips for ITS products, tools, and services. And if you are having any audio or video problems during this live webinar, please tell us in the chat pod. If it's not on our end, we may have some tips for you how to fix it on your end. Here are some links for mobile options for IT4U. And this is our IT4U collaboration series, so we specifically focus on Google and C Tools and Box. And there is a link down here to a Next Gen Michigan page where you can get recordings of all our webinars on these topics without having to log in. What's coming up in February is Christy Brown, who's done some amazing things with Qualtrics in the Ross School of Business, is going to talk to us. I don't have a date on that, but I'll let you know. And if you are a person with a disability who needs an accommodation either to participate in the live webinars or to take part in the recordings, let us know. Today we've got Ryan Viss, who's been here before. We're always happy when he agrees to speak to us. He's going to talk about Google Forms and slides. And without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen and turn it over to Ryan.
It crashed. All right. Can we see my presentation?
Yep.
Excellent, great. Sorry for the delay. Good morning, everyone. As Gene mentioned, my name is Ryan Viss. I am the service owner and manager for Google Collaboration Services here on campus. I am a University of Michigan employee. I do not work for Google. I receive no compensation from Google. I don't even get swag. So if you have any questions, my contact information will be at the end, but you can always look me up in the directory. My name is also my unique name. Just smush them together, put @UMich at the end, and you're good. Today we're going to be talking about some of the new stuff that's in slides and forms. We're going to talk about some tips for both of those apps as well. I really encourage you to send in either questions that you have about slides and forms, or if you have your own tips, cool things that you've been doing on your own or in your department, put those in the chat pod, and we'll be happy to share those with the others and highlight what you're doing, give your name so we can give you credit. And I will stop throughout as well and look over to Gene and to Mike here to see if you have any questions that have come in through the chat pod and try to get to those. So let's get started. Right off the top, I want to talk a little bit about some of the changes you might be seeing within Google Apps, specifically in Drive. Google has started to normalize some of the naming around the apps that live within Drive. For instance, you'll see me today talking about slides instead of presentations. That is Google's new designation for the online presentation software, the PowerPoint equivalent in Google Drive. So we'll be talking about slides. Sometimes confusingly, slides contain slides, but we'll just ignore that for now. Forms are still forms. I don't know that they'll be changing anytime soon. Hopefully not. Documents are still documents, and spreadsheets are now referred to as sheets. We're not going to be talking about that today, but I just want to kind of cover all of the apps that are a part of Drive. Back when we started moving to Google, it was called Google Documents. Documents now are specifically the word processing component of Drive. So you'll see some of our materials change when folks from my team or from the other areas who support Google Apps talk about these things. You'll hear them refer to those terms. And for as long as Google remains that way. So what's new in Forms? Not a whole lot has changed in the last few months, but Google has started putting in some new features. The big one you'll see is the interface has changed. If you create a new form today, you'll see the new interface. This happened a while ago, but if you have a form that you created, say, a year ago, that form isn't and won't be upgraded to the new interface. You'll only see it in new forms that you create. The new forms don't have a whole lot of different functionality, but they look a little bit different. One of the new features that we've seen recently is the ability to print a form that you've created online. This is, there's a number of use cases here. It might just be for review. You want to give it to someone who either doesn't want to use Drive or can't use Drive for whatever reason. You can print them a form, they can redline it and give it back to you to make your changes. It's also a handy way to give your form to someone who may not have internet access or prefers not to do that. They can fill the form out, give it back to you. You still have to data enter that information, but at least they were taking the exact same content that your online participants were. Another new feature that we've seen recently that is a very welcome addition to Google Forms is what we're calling near real-time collaboration. You can have multiple people working on a form at the same time, which you always could, but what you see now is as they save those changes, updates are pushed to all the other people who are collaborating on that form. It's not quite the same real-time experience you are familiar with in something like Documents, for instance, where you see everybody's individual cursor flying around as they're typing, but it's much better than having to save yours, refresh the form, and see everybody else's edits post hoc. For slides, there has been a lot of new content being added. The biggest one right now is they now have real-time text cursors, which is similar to docs. You will see people who are simultaneously editing your slide deck in real time. You'll see as they type, all that stuff will be in there, which is a nice addition, especially when you're down to the wire and you're trying to get that presentation put together from maybe home and somebody here in the office and all those kinds of things. You can also import a theme from another presentation. This is really handy for, let's say you work for an organization that has an organizational template and you know your colleague used that and you really like to use that. You no longer have to clone their presentation, delete all their content, and put in your own content. You can just import the theme into the presentation you've already worked on, and the slides will take over the content, or not the content, but the background images, the fonts, any logos you might have in there. We also now have the ability for widescreen presentations. This particular presentation is in the widescreen format. So if you have a laptop or a projector that does a 16:9 projection, your presentation will now fill that screen, where before you might have had some black bars on the top or bottom to round out that image that was projected. And then the two big ones I kind of saved for the end. Google Slides finally has master slides. For those of you who worked with PowerPoint for years, seems like kind of a no-brainer, but it's finally here. Master slides, for those of you who don't use it, are essentially templates that are local to the presentation. You can go into a special edit mode, change the background on your slide, and that will propagate out to every slide that uses that particular template. It's really handy if your organization, for instance, says, you know what, every presentation now uses Calibri as our text. You can just make that change in one place and it goes out to all of your slides within that presentation. Gene, looks like we have a question.
I was just going to say, and you're going to show us all this.
I am, as soon as I get through here. And you can also take some of Google's stock themes and edit those to your heart's desire now. Before, when you chose a theme from the gallery, you were kind of stuck with what was there. You can now go in and tweak that as much as you want. So I'm just going to exit out of this slide briefly. And if you're looking to do a master slide, that is going to be under the slide menu here, and then you can choose Edit Master. And it's going to go into this special editing mode, and you'll see all of the different layout types here along the left-hand side. Depending on which ones you're using, you may not have to touch all of them. For this presentation, for instance, I'm only using this layout and this layout, so I could make changes here as much as I wanted, and that would go out to pretty much every slide I have in my deck. You can do things like change the font. I'm actually not going to make any changes on the fly because live demos tend to blow up in my face, but you can do these kinds of things. Well, for instance, you can change the bullet type. So right now I have kind of a round, square, or round, open, and then a square type. You could switch that over to just be checkboxes, and you'll see it go all the way down through 9 levels. It's going to show you here at the top, and I don't know if you can see my cursor all that well, but right here in this gray area, it's telling me that 15 slides currently use this template. So if I make this change, 15 slides get updated automatically. To make a change, I just X out of here, and now every slide, so this is the one we came from, every slide now has the square shadowed bullet type, and you'll see that everywhere. Any questions coming in?
Can you just show us how to import a theme?
How to import a theme? Sure. If you're into, so you go to the import slides, I think, and I apologize. I thought I had made a note, and I don't see my notes. Nope, that's not it. I apologize. Let me look through here. Oh, theme. So I'll cancel it and I'll do this. I'll talk my way through it. So here on the main screen on the toolbar, you'll see a theme button. This is where you can just change to a theme if you want to use one of Google's stock themes. Down here at the bottom, there's also an import theme button. Before I click that, I want to point out something else here. This is where you can switch the aspect ratio of your slides. So if you know, for instance, that you'll be on a regular projector or an older projector that's a 4:3, you can quickly switch that aspect ratio here. You don't have to start over with the theme. But for importing a theme, you just click this button. You'll have a couple of options. The default is you can go find something that's already in your drive. You can search for it. So I think I can just search for ITS, and I see our standard PowerPoint templates popping up here. I could just choose one of those. It's going to show me what the theme looks like. Sometimes you'll see multiple themes if the presentation you're trying to import has them, and you could select all or just one or two of them if you want to do that by clicking on it, and then the import theme button becomes highlighted. I'm not going to do that because it actually may do bad things to my presentation, but that's how you would do that. Any other questions coming in? Okay, if there are, just stop me and I'll come back. Excuse me. Like I said, I did have a thing here, but we talked about master slides and how themes work. So tips for slides. A couple things that some folks may not know about. You can publish your slides to the web very easily. I think most of us are familiar with sharing our slides to the web. So this is kind of going to the top right of all of the document types that are in Drive, and we click that share button, and there's this long unique URL, and then the access level is here. And I think a lot of us are pretty familiar with doing public on the web. The caveat here is when you click public on the web in this dialog, you are actually publishing the slide deck itself publicly. So you can choose which level people can interact with it. They can either view, comment, or edit, but it is the actual deck. So if you were to share this with the world and then start making edits, people, even if they have view access, could watch you make edits in real time. For most folks, that's not a big deal. By the time you get down to the point of publishing a slide deck, you're done with it, and you're kind of tossing it out there as an artifact for people to have. But sometimes you have content that is dynamic, that you are maintaining over time. You still want to share that with people, but you don't want to give them access to the actual slide deck itself. One way to effectively do that is to share it to the web. So if you go to the File menu and then go to Publish to the Web, and just as a side note, this works in documents and sheets as well. So what you're seeing here is, excuse me one second. It's my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Todd, tomorrow. Click Publish to the Web, and the first time you do this, you're going to get a dialog box, and it's going to ask you, how do you want to share this? Because our UMich accounts have an additional layer of signing and authentication, you can require that someone actually be logged into an @UMich Google account in order to see this content. If you don't want that, just don't check the box, and you're effectively publishing to the public internet. and I'll take that one step further, not only public on the internet, but it will be indexed and discoverable via Google search or Bing search or DuckDuckGo or whatever your search engine of choice is. It will be indexed and available for people to search. Hopefully that's a good thing for what you're publishing. If you're ready to go, you click the Start Publishing button. It's going to confirm that you actually want to publish this document to everybody in the world, and you're going to say, okay, yes, I do. And then the dialog is going to expand a little bit. You're going to see the same link here. This is the same link we saw in the share dialog box. You would be sharing this with the world. You don't have to do that, though. What you can do is you can embed, take this code, and it's a little hard to see. Oops, I missed the corner. Okay. It's very long, trust me. But you can copy and paste this link. It's an iframe, and you can embed it into any web page that you have. If you have an intranet or an extranet that you maintain for your department, you can embed that in there, and that content will be displayed to anybody who comes to that page. The security is still controlled here in the slide, but the content is publicly facing. You can choose how big that presentation is, so I can make it 1440, which is, or by 839, which is actually fairly large, good for easy reading on large monitors. You can even specify a custom height. If you have a very specific block of content that needs to be filled on your site, you can trim that iframe down to be whatever size it is. One thing to keep in mind, if you make the embed window smaller than things you have put in your slide deck, like images, it's going to have to scroll, so just make sure that your slide deck is appropriately sized for the embedding. But for things like text, the text is going to fill the space appropriately, make it a little height, but you can adjust that too. The cool thing with this is, once you've published it to the web, people only see the published slides. They don't see you working on it. They don't see real-time collaboration. So you can continue to share this document just like you would with your colleagues. So this is shared with Mike and Jean. And we could continue to work on this presentation for as long as we wanted. And every 3 seconds, it's going to go through, and I'll pop back here. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. But in this publish to web dialog, we're going to see that, well, I'm sorry, you can specify how fast it will auto advance. You can also say that it won't. But it's going to review any changes you have and pull them into that embedded thing on a periodic basis. So you don't have to do anything to update that slide. Any questions? Okay. Another tip, animations. Animate this slide. Let's try this. So when we first moved to Google, I think one of the little quibbles we had about slides or presentations at the time was that animations weren't present, or that they were fairly rudimentary. Google has actually made some pretty decent improvements to animations. So animate that presentation, give it some character, have things flying in, flying out, fading in. The nice thing is they are 100% web-based animations. There's no plugins, there's no controls you have to put in, no extensions. This is all on the web. You just go to View Animations, and what you'll get is, so View and Animations. And it's going to open up on the right hand side here. You can select the content you want to edit or to animate, and then you can choose your options. So you can have those fade ins, fade outs, zoom in, zoom out. Sorry, no star wipes, but you can control them on clicks. You can string them together like you can in PowerPoint with previous and next events if you need to do that. It's pretty powerful. I will, again, it's not quite PowerPoint level animation, but I would challenge a lot of people who are using that level of animation in PowerPoint or maybe abusing the animation system. But it is available online, something you can use pretty easily. Excuse me. So forms, and pardon me. Why the heck would you use forms? First and foremost, it is a quick and simple way to create a form. It's available to everybody in the university, including the health system. You can restrict login to their UMISH accounts. You can record who came in and filled out the form and when, just by clicking a button. It's very easy to build a form and collect information, and it's all kind of point and click. You don't have to know a lot of code, or any code for that matter, to do these. You can collaboratively build a form. So if you have a group that's working on something, maybe each of you have to come up with a question and put it in the form. That's a really easy way to get a 10-question survey together. And it's an easy way to accumulate data and share the data once you've collected it. Because forms have the option to put all of the responses into a spreadsheet, or excuse me, a sheet, once it's in that sheet, you have all of the controls and all of the analytical tools available that you would have in any other spreadsheet. You can do statistics, you can do analysis on the data that you collected, and if you really need to do some heavy lifting, you can move that into Excel and use your statistical packages in Excel. Why wouldn't you use forms? If you're doing really complex surveys that require branching, so for instance, if I answer question 1 with A, I go to a different question 2 than if I were to choose B. Forms doesn't have that right now. It's kind of a straight linear path through the questions.
And if you're going to do that, you'd probably use Qualtrics, which we're going to learn about next month.
Yes, exactly. And I thank you I saw that on your intro. Yes, if you're doing a lot of heavy statistical analysis, especially if you need things like unique codes to provide anonymity to the people who are using or completing your survey, or if you need really deep analysis about the survey itself. So if you need metadata about the survey of X number of people filled it out between the hours of 8 and 12, or the most respondents come to my survey after work hours, you are going to need to use something like Qualtrics, because Forms just does not collect that information for you. But yes, and again, we're going to talk about that in February, it sounds like, and Qualtrics is a very good tool if that's the kind of stuff you do, if you do survey work like that. So how are folks using it now? So for right now, we see everything from where should we go to lunch to suggestions and feedbacks, forms. For instance, the google.umich.edu site. The second link on the home page is a suggestions and feedback link. We get a number of those every week. If you have some suggestions or feedback, please go to our form, fill it out. It is actively monitored. Please don't submit support tickets or requests for support. If you have an issue, contact 4Help. But if you have just general suggestions or feedback about how the team is working, drop us a line. Yes, Gene.
Tiffany says, our institute uses forms as a quick and easy way to get workshop feedback / evaluations.
That's a great use, yeah, and easy to kind of clone and change for a course that has similar content as well. That's good use. Excuse me. So a brief note about security in forms. Forms are secure. They're as secure as your email. We use the same authentication system to get into forms that you log in for, or that you use to log into your email. You have the same share options that you have with any other piece of content in Drive, so you can share with anybody at the university or outside as long as they have a Google account. They can work on that form, edit it, change it, comment on it, whatever they need to do. One thing that I want to just kind of, I'm going to harp on this for a minute. No one at the university, outside the university, will ever legitimately ask you for a password through a form. If anybody ever asks you to put any password into a form, report it. Please contact security at UMich or call 4Help immediately. The URL is very helpful if you have that, if you could send it to us. If you've opened it and you've submitted information and you have that panic moment, that sinking feeling, please contact security. There are folks on the end of that can help you. Yes, Gene.
And you're talking about within the form itself, not to log in to get to the form.
The only place you should put your password is on the web login page that you see every single day here at the university. Yeah, you will never be asked for your password via a Google form, a Google Doc, a Google Sheet. You should never put your password into an email and send it to someone. If you do those, if you've done that, if you've been duped, and I'm going to throw my hand up here, it has happened to me. There are some very sophisticated attackers out there today. Please contact security at UMich or 4Help, and there are people who can help you. All right, enough of that. So what's the cool stuff you can do with forms? Now, I have said that forms pretty easy to use, straightforward. You don't need to know a lick of code to use these things. But if you know some things like regular expressions, also known as regex, you can do some really powerful stuff with Google Forms. I know some of the things on this slide look like gobbledygook. if you know a coder or somebody who's handy with scripting, they may know regex already. You can also probably Google up a lot of regex expressions that will help you validate data that's being put into a form. I'm going to leave this here just so people have something, but I want to show it to you because I think it's easier to see. This is just a really quick and dirty form that I put together, and this first question has, this first question has a text field where you can put in the response. And the question I put in here is just to enter a year between 1920 and 2010. And the hint is, you know what, any year. You can put any year in here that you want to put in here.
Could you zoom in a little bit on that?
Could I zoom in? Yes. Is that better?
Yes.
Cool. So this is just a standard text question type. There's also paragraph text. This validation works for both of these types. There isn't really for the rest of these because they're already validated types of data. But what people are going to see is just a text box. What you can do behind the scenes is you can open up this data validation section and you can put in something, a validation that's a regular expression. The other options are you could force it to be a number or you can require that it be text. Regular expressions are very powerful ways to validate data that's been put in your form. I will say, just from experience, it's kind of hard to get this right, so I would just Google things and use regular expressions that people have already bulletproof tested for you. But if you know regex, you can put a whole bunch of stuff in here. So this code, this string of numbers and symbols and dollar signs and whatnot, will actually look at the text that you put in there and validated that the number that's there is somewhere between 1920 and 2010. And if it's not, you can specify what the error should be. So how this works, let me click done to save this. We have to actually look at the live form. So we'll go up to the top here and view the live form. And the person who's completing your survey sees a regular old form. But let's say I just put in 2014. And I submit. Oops, what did I do? Okay. Oh, because I'm testing. Sorry. Yes.
Bob says try 1915, that regex will accept it.
Sorry, live form. Try 1915, it will accept it. Okay, so this is where the operator error comes into play of I am not a programmer and I am not a regex expert. So this probably is buggy in some way. I should probably Google how to do a regex construction. Yeah, don't do live demos. It's just a tip. But if you are a better regex person than me, you can force these things to validate in very, very powerful ways. On this link here, you'll find a page where there are a number of different regex constructions that you can use. Things like zip codes or phone numbers or things like that. You can make sure that your data is cleaner than you would if it was just free-form entry. Okay. Another thing you can do with forms now is you can change the destination of responses. So in the past, with the old forms, you had one option. All of your responses would go into a sheet associated with that form, and you had one and only one sheet that you could collect responses with. Now you have a few different options. The default option is actually to store the data within the form itself. So there's no separate sheet that you have to look for in your drive to find the data from your respondents. You can also now change the destination. Edit. So in the responses dialog, you can change the response destination. And when you open that, your first option is it'll just create a new spreadsheet called IT. It just takes the name of the form that you have. It's going to create that spreadsheet, and it's immediately going to start accepting responses into that spreadsheet. What you also can do is you can use an existing spreadsheet. So if you have, let's say your feedback and suggestion form, you want to separate the responses by month. On the first of the month, someone could have a task to come in here and choose a different place. So you could have a sheet specifically for that month's responses. You'll have to create the sheet first, but you could come here, select it, and move the responses there. And then you have the old responses in their own isolated sheet. Yes?
Mary says, did you say that the default is that it won't create a sheet at all, only store responses in the form?
Yes, that's correct. The responses are stored within the form by default. Which is handy because it makes it a little bit more portable. You only have to do or manage the one entity. It also only shows up as one thing in your Drive document list. Whereas before, when you created a form, you saw both the form and a sheet. But you don't have to do that anymore. You can actually see it here where I've split the responses for this form into its own unique spreadsheet, so I have 2 items there. All right. If you don't, if you have it, even if you do it into another spreadsheet, you can just see the summary of responses right from within the form. You can just go to responses, summary of responses, and you'll get varying visualizations of that data depending on the type of question. Yeah, sorry. That was another type I wanted to highlight. So there's a scale type, and that's this 1 through 10, and you can set your own scale. It could be 1, 2, 3, it could be 1 through 6, it could be A through Z, whatever it needs to be, but you can have a scale here. You can also grid things out, so, you know, who is the best doctor? I mean, clearly it was number 10, so you could fill that out. But you can, this is the edit mode for a grid. You can have as many rows and columns as you want. So it could be 20 rows with 3 columns, or 2 columns, and it could be just yes, no for a number of different rows. The one limitation is it is like this, it's radio buttons, so that's unique. You can't have multiple checkboxes for a row. All right. Any questions? Online? I guess it would all be online.
Could you maybe just start from scratch?
Yeah, of course. So starting a form from scratch, you're going to start on your Drive. Go to the Create button here. When you click so I'll point out one more time too here, they've actually made this a little bit better in the user interface. There are actually 2 buttons here that are very close together. This is to upload content into your Drive for either storage or conversion to Google Drive formats. Or there's a Create button here. Clicking the Create button gives you a menu of choices. And right down here is Formed. When you open a new form, you're going to get, at first you'll get the template gallery, so we can call this a test for IT4U. And you could choose a template if you want to. If you are sick of seeing this every time you open a form, you can clear this checkbox and you won't see it. You'll just get a blank form. Yes?
John just wants us to know that his answer is Tom Baker.
Number 4, yes, yes. Also a good contender for, I think you could probably have some very long generational arguments about 4 and 10, but that's a little too geeky even for this. But this is what you'll see when you create a new form. You'll have the first question placed on here for you. If you want to change the type, you can always go down to this question type and choose a different response type. You can get a date. You can include times. Put in when should we have our next meeting. And of course you can always make something required that will not allow someone to submit the form without having answered the question. Click Done, and you'll get a kind of a representation of what your participants will see. If you want to check how it's looking with the template, you can click the View the Live Form and you'll get something like this. So for a date, they can type things in, so it could be 02/14/2014. They can also use these little dials for whatever field they're on, or you can open a calendar flyout menu and choose a date and then input a time. I'm going to meet at 2 p.m. If you want to keep going, you can just click the Add Item. If you click this, you'll get the default type, which is text. You can also click this little arrow. In every presentation I do, we always hit that Google loves little arrows. If you see an arrow pointing down or to the side, click it, because Google's probably hidden something behind it that you want to use. In this case, you can choose the type that you want. So I want a new multiple choice question. I can put that in. I can also have images, so I can insert an image. Yes, Gene.
So Dave says, if you have a publicly available form, can you send the responses to a sheet that's not publicly available? In other words, can anyone who fills out the form see everybody else's responses? Or can the responses be secured?
So the responses are always secured unless you explicitly allow them to be seen. So let me cancel out of here.
So even if it's in the form, stored in the form, they can't see that?
Correct. So down here at the bottom, there's a confirmation page. So you can actually customize the confirmation page a little bit. You could say, thanks for completing the IT4U survey, or something like that. So there's three options here. The first is show a link to submit another response. This will allow the participant to click a link on the confirmation page that takes them back to the form where they can fill it out again. So if you don't want them to do that, clear that, and that only allows them to fill it out once. This works really well if at the top you've required them to log in, because that way you know that that particular user who has been authenticated through web login has completed your form one and only one time. To kind of double up on that, you can click this automatically collect respondents University of Michigan username option. When you do that, the user who fills it out will A, have to be signed in to their UMich account, but B, when they do that, you'll get their unique name and a timestamp of when they hit the submit button on your form. A nice thing too, if you have a long form or multiple pages, you can show them a progress bar of how, and it will show in percentage how far along they are in completing your survey. So back down to the bottom, if you want people to see everybody else's response is, clicking this will give them a link that will bring them to that data. If you don't click it, they can't get to it. Another nice thing, if you have a survey that's going to be out for a week or two, and you want to give people maybe a second chance to come and change their answers, or whatever your use case is, if they need to come and edit their responses, you can check this box, and that will let them come back. The form, they'll have to sign in, of course, but the form will know who they are because they're signed in, and it will show them their previous responses, and they can alter those responses. Yes?
So if I'm the person who created the form and I store the responses in the form, it's only going to let me, as the person who created the form, see the responses in the form, and everybody else gets a different view? So
if you store the data in the form or even in the associated spreadsheet, the only people who can see it are editors of those items. Okay. Well, I guess, or people you've given view permission to. So the same rules apply for a Google document. If you explicitly list somebody as having the ability to see or work on the form, they will also have access to the data. If they're just completing the form, they don't have access to the data. Okay. Now there may be some overlap there, so kind of keep that in mind when you're designing your form, but yeah, the data is hidden by default from people who are simply completing your survey. All right? Any other questions? Okay. If you do have other questions, you can always get a hold of us. I mentioned the google.umich.edu. That is our main website for communications. We put announcements up there frequently. There's also that feedback and suggestions link. I encourage you, if you have questions or suggestions for things we can help you with, please fill that out and get a hold of us. If you have support issues or you don't feel like filling out the form, you can always contact 4Help and they'll route it to our support teams. And of course, we have our Collab Forum. The Collab Forum is a Google group. We only allow at umich.edu email or identities to join, so you will have to use your Google account. The one caveat there is the group is public for discovery, so people outside the university can read what's there. They just can't participate in the discussion. And with that, I will turn it back over to Gene.
get back here. Stop sharing. Go back to my PowerPoint. All right, thanks a lot, Ryan. There's a lot of great information there. And he did mention the collaboration forum, and that link is right here, and also the M+ Google site. Thank you, John. And yeah, all the recording and the slides from Ryan's presentation will be on the IT4U page in my link, and also on the Next Gen Michigan public web page. You can sign up for announcements so you can find out about upcoming IT4U episodes, and as Ryan said, if you need specific assistance, the Service Center for Help can help you. And that's about it. We're going to stop recording, but those of you who are here today, please stick around. I'd like to get your feedback in the polls.